Welcome everyone to Mythstorie, a podcast about myths and history. I am one of your hosts, Bryant, with my permanent guest co-creator, Cammy. Hey there.
Hey, Bryant, how are you?
Very good, thanks.
Good.
As the show goes, we talk about myths and legends. We just hit up old Harold Hardrada, which was a very fun episode, talking about that old Viking, the last Viking of our age, essentially. And we're spinning it with something completely different. We're talking about the she's mainly known in Hinduism, but Lakshmi, she's also a Buddhist and Jainist god, or Jane. I think it's just Jane.
Janice, I thought.
Yeah, I think you just say Jane.
Really?
Yeah.
I've always heard Jan, but I don't know. I'm not Janice, so I don't know.
Any Janes out there to help us out? Anyone named Jane that would prefer us to say Jan? All right. Well, anyway, so on the show, we're gonna give a original story about Lakshmi, talking about her, and then I'm gonna kind of give some of the background info, some of the sources, the history, if you will, because we talk about myths and history here. So Cammy will start us off with her story, and then I will take it away after that. So Cammy, please regale us with a tale.
Absolutely. So I used templepurohit.com. When we left our story so many seasons ago, the gods were churning the universe. Everything in the world sprang forth from the churning: the moon in all her beauty, the cow of plenty, the goddess of wine, Vishnu's many objects he is known to possess. And as all of that was coming forth, suddenly a magnificent woman popped out from the stirred ocean, and every deva and ashra paused to comprehend the beauty that was before them. The devas scrambled about themselves to find a place for her to sit, while the young as Apsara's maidens tried to entertain her with their dancing, and every god and immortal being wished she chose them as her consort. No one seemed to catch her eye until Vishnu appeared in human form, and she immediately wanted only him. And the immortals began to come together and hold their wedding. Lakshmi hung a garland of newly born flora around Vishnu's neck, and the two held each other tenderly. And when the wedding was planned and the celebration started, the two were celebrated by every god. And as part of their ceremony, Vishnu placed upon his chest the symbol of Lakshmi, so that she may be with him always. And she was able to, from that place in his heart, aid him in his many incarnations to battle evil and serve good. And she stayed by him as he dreamed the universe into being.
That's awesome. So she's born, goes up,
Right.
and is like, "Hey, babe, I got these flowers for you." And he's like, "What are flowers?" And she's like, "Shh." And then just all this stuff happening at once. No, great story. I was going to talk a little bit about the origin because it's a pretty simple sort of thing. Although every source I see always calls it the Milky Ocean, and churning is the word. Churning and
Right.
Milky Ocean doesn't make me feel good. I feel kind of ill after I read that.
I mean, it sounds like you're going to get butter in the end. So.
Yeah, but it is. It's wild, and talking about Lakshmi here, we've delved into a little bit of this East or West Asian mythology. I want to say a little bit, not too much, and so it's tough. Talking about Lakshmi is kind of like saying we're talking about Jesus today in 20 minutes. Although I'm
Right.
sure many people do, but
Well, when we did it the first time, I actually talked about the churning.
oh, okay, excellent,
Yeah, and so
excellent.
it kind of ended there, like what was coming out of it. There was they fought for the elixir.
Yeah,
That was our
yeah,
elixir of life
Amrita,
episode.
Amrita, the elixir of
Hmm.
life. Yeah. So, and it's really cool. I'll kind of start off like, yeah. So Lakshmi, very relevant goddess. In Primarily we kind of see, if you see a picture of her, it'll typically be like a Hindu depiction of her, but she's essentially associated with wealth, fortune, prosperity, and good luck. So just everything good happen in the world, and that's probably why a lot of people give her a lot of attention. She is one of the most widely worshipped deities in Hinduism, as well as one of the most popular. I imagine there's like a Time Magazine India poll. Um, Lakshmi, she's depicted very beautiful, long black hair, almost always has four arms, pure gold, and is usually seated or standing with a lotus flower. You'll also see elephants with her. This is a sign of abundance. Apparently, you got elephants, you got to have a lot to take care of them. So, uh, She is the consort of Vishnu, the preserver god, in the Hindu Trimurti. The Trimurti is the concept of a triad of gods that represent the three primary functions of the universe: creation, preservation, and destruction. She's also the mother of Kama, the god of love, and Kubera, the god of wealth.
That's
So,
interesting,
yeah,
because Venus is the god, the goddess of beauty,
yeah,
um, and her son Eros is the god of love, basically.
yeah. Well, if you're
Cupid.
pretty, you're gonna have kids, you're gonna be rich, and that's it. That's life since the ancient times. So yeah, she is worshipped also not just by Buddhists, but she's also important in by Jains, which is the word that Wikipedia and Britannica use. So I guess that would be right. And she's also relevant in Buddhism. So remember, these religions and philosophies all kind of came from the same area in Asia, in India, very old, some of them, and so it would make sense. And she's a powerful and benevolent goddess worshipped by millions of people around the world. Um, the sources that we mainly get from her are important: the Vedas, the Puranas, and the Upanishads. So it's tough to cover these all in one, but these are these three texts are like a collection of uh, anecdotes, poems, epics. Some of them are believed to have been composed between 50. I'll talk about the Vedas first. Thought to have been composed between 1500 and 1200 BCE. So older than Homer. Just to put it into perspective, older than the Greek, right? Poet Homer. And a lot of my sources wanted to know these are not inherently religious. They're they're hymns, they're poems, they're just a collection of these word of mouth tales, and it's really cool to think about that. I remember we can talk about Norse mythology a lot. Norse mythology is extremely old, but no one wrote that crap down, and it's so frustrating until way later after Christianization. You're like, no. So it's really cool to see that these were done. Oh, I think I have the language written down somewhere. It's like Vedic Sanskrit, I believe is what it is. Yeah, Vedic Sanskrit, an ancient language. Think like older than Latin. I mean, very, very
Sure.
old Proto-Indo-European language. Um, and talking about this reminded me, I took a Religion 101 class at Midlands Tech when I was younger. I had a great old gentleman as my teacher. I can't remember his name, unfortunately, but he was very good, very open guy. It was a very easy course you could imagine. And he always, his like opening when we talked about Hinduism was that he's like, if you're a Catholic, if you're a Christian, if you're Jewish, or if you're Catholic and you go to church, or even if you just think and pray and all that, he said, then the Hindus would say you're being a good Hindu. So he said it was a very inclusive religion, and in many parts, and it varies wildly as well, from country to country, just like how Buddhism is very wild, in China, India, Japan. These have had hundreds of years of spreading, changing, very, very, just like how Christianity can be different, but even older, even older, even older. So just keep that in mind. The other texts that mention her are the Puranas, which was between the 2nd and 9th centuries, and the Upanishads. The Puranas and the Upanishads are not considered to be as authoritative as the Vedas, but still important in the Hindu tradition. They are used to teach the philosophy and ethics of Hindu, and they provide insights and beliefs into the practices of it. So these are all of these, like I said, they're collections of texts, very authoritative, not inherently religious, very fun, very easy to kind of digest and take through. So, they've, and one of my notes here, it's important to note they've been passed down, sometimes, just through word of mouth, through generations, undergone different interpretations and adaptations. So, Lakshmi, it can change. It can really, really change depending on where you go. But I really love to see how old and how focused it is. So, more on Lakshmi, though. Diwali is probably one of the most famous times that she's honored. This is a festival of lights that's celebrated, and she's kind of takes front and center. The lights are expelling the darkness. The old tale of light conquering darkness. This is what Diwali is all about, and it's also a big part of that. Just the themes. So she is, we again, goddess of prosperity, consort of Vishnu. Um, she's almost always depicted in the same way. It's really cool. If you go on the Wikipedia page, scroll down to the bottom, you can see a Jain's depiction from a temple and a Buddhist figurine in Japan, and it's really cool. You can kind of see the distinct differences, but also the similarities. She doesn't have forearms in those depictions, but you can see the elephants, you can see the long dark hair, and just the fortune, the wealth, but also just like the prettiness, the happiness that comes off of her. So it's fun to see that. Yes, there are some major differences in how it's like interpreted, but it's really fun to see that some things really stayed the same. So very fun to look into her. I'm sure many people have lotus tattoos with her on it, and I can see why. Though that's about it for what I've got. Though she definitely worth looking at. A few pictures of her. I'll try and get a couple in. But again, very ancient source through the Hindu texts, and extremely important even nowadays. So if anyone can chime in on their current modern sort of recognitions of Lakshmi, I would appreciate that. By the way, we should have opened up with a joke. Lakshmi Singh, NPR, first thing
Oh
Cammy and I
yeah,
thought
no,
of.
that honestly,
Not even gonna get it. Yeah,
when we were figuring it out, we were like, oh, like
yeah,
Lakshmi from NPR. There we go.
yeah. Just we had to throw that out there. No jokes. Just stating it. Just stating that we thought it too. I'm sure some people will have that idea as well. But yeah, so Cammy, thank you for your story. Origin myths are always fun for goddess and gods. Ton of stuff that we can do here with Hinduism. It's almost overwhelming. So I kind of wanted to make it a little more bite size. Maybe we can open up a little bit more without having to talk about some of the primary texts. But if there's anything in particular you'd like us to talk about that's worth looking into story wise and history wise within Hinduism, please let us know. Every time we talk about it, it's always been like a trip. So, Cammy, anything else that you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Just that a lot of the stuff that that we did talk about in this episode, you can see in video games, and I'm very
Oh,
surprised
of
you didn't
course.
bring it up. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
we were talking about like the Astras and their, or how do you say it?
Asura or Ashra. Yeah.
Yeah, Astra's Wrath is like a
Yeah.
PS3,
I mean,
Xbox 360 game, maybe.
yeah, back in the day. Yeah. And I mean, and there's a lot of Hindu elements in the Persona games. They
Yeah,
use a lot of that. I don't know if Lakshmi's directly in that. I don't know how
I feel
ballsy
like
they feel.
maybe though, it was one of the. I mean, it's obviously not like one of the tarot cards, but it might have been one of the personas that you could
Yeah, that you can have. And
use.
I love when that happens, like, and you find like, because you'd see like Thor or something, and you'd
Yeah,
be like, oh yeah. I mean, yes, of course, someone out there is worshiping Thor, but definitely not as popular, right? And but Lakshmi, millions of people have
yeah,
are like very important. Understandably, the tradition is there,
right.
undeniably, and so seeing her in a video game, it doesn't diminish her or anything, but it's interesting to see. But you might assume if Thor and Lakshmi are in a video game, like, oh well, they're both maybe not that important. But knowing Lakshmi is, you're just wondering, why isn't Jesus in Persona? Why can't you like call call like
Could
Saint
you
Peter?
imagine?
Right? Yeah.
Did
Why
you say
not?
Saint Peter?
Yeah, why not? Who else are you? What Christian mythos like are you gonna call?
I don't know.
It just makes me laugh. Yeah,
No,
I
there
would.
is like a Trinity thing in there,
Yeah,
but I don't
which
remember what it does or whatever.
well, and as Hinduism teaches us, the Trimurti is definitely an old concept, and I mean, we've learned about three-parted Hermes in the past, so they're people like threes sell. That's why we need a third person. Where are you, Peter?
Oh yeah, where's Peter?
Anyway, very fun talking about this subject. Really fun to look into. If you have any personal stories that you can share, please do. And if you have a direct follow up that we should consider, then please let us know. We definitely will look into something else. I mean, there's tons here. It's great to see. So, Cammy, thanks again for your tales.
Thank you,
Uh,
Bryant, for your history.
the wonderful mind's eye images of churning milky oceans and beautiful ladies coming out of them. And I'm just like, oh, you look great. No, but please let
Oh,
us know.
wait a second. I just made
Did we
another
forget something?
connection.
Please.
Yeah, wasn't Venus came from the ocean as well.
Should have gotten that trademarked.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hey, who knows? It could have. It could have. Someone could have written something down. It could have floated over, and Phoenician picks it up, and he's like, "Whoa!" And then I don't know, Crete. It's right there. But
It
it's
is
crazy to
right
think
there.
about how old it all is, though. I don't know how interconnected. I feel like Alexander the Great was obviously when things really started to
Yeah,
pick
of
up
course.
between the Greek and Indian world. We talked about in our Hercules episode that you can find Hercules's image on like Hindu temples because of Alexander's time. It might not have happened directly during his time, but like because of him moving through and settling and conquering that area, the Greek imagery that's in West Asia is really cool to just that happened. So yeah, who knows? Who knows? All right, everyone. Well, Mythstorie, all one word with an IE at the end. This is Bryant and Cammy. We appreciate you spending time with us. Please let us know if you have any myths or historical events that you'd like to talk about. We just talked about Harold Hardrada, the last Viking. That was a very fun episode, and this has been just as great. Mythstorie@gmail.com is a great way to get in touch with us. We also have our Facebook group, or you can just say hey to Cammy and I directly. LinkedIn? No, not yet. Mythstorie.net is our website, though, and that'll give you all of our other web pages. We'll work on the LinkedIn, right? To podcast new LinkedIn.
Sure.
We'll get on that. All right, everyone. Well, we will end the show as we always do. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.